Welcome back to the Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we will be not only just breaking down the divisional games that have happened so far, but also going into what each of the losing team should be expecting to do in the offseason and what our opinions also should be to do that. But before we get into that, if this is your first time here, welcome. Ryan and I, we love just doing this and growing our community of football fanatics like ourselves. So hit that subscribe button. Like this video, comment on, let us know your thoughts on what each of the losing teams should do in the offseason. And Ryan, let's get into it. What a crazy weekend. Wildcard weekend is definitely starting to turn into one of the more fun, I would say, sports traditions here in America. And it was neat just kind of kick back, relax, and watch all the best teams play and some amazing games, absolutely some amazing games. So let's just go down in order and let's just kind of talk first about that Seattle-San Francisco game. First game, divisional matchup. Both teams have already played twice. Some competitive games between the two. It's actually, if I'm not mistaken, no, that's not true. Seattle had already played Brock Purdy, but we're going to get into Seattle here a little bit later. But the 49ers, I mean, they are such a complete team. I mean, I'm trying to think of what other team can really compare to them. But I mean, I think that they're just playing the best football. I mean, like all aspects of the game.
The Chiefs, you can compare offensively, but that's just because Patrick Mahomes is so good.
Yeah,
that it keeps defenses at bay just because of the threat that he presents. There is no team that plays at this high of a level on both sides of the football.
Yeah.
Because this is a top 5 defense in the NFL too. Like,
oh, easily. Top 3, top 2.
Yeah.
Top 0.
And so like for me, this is the best team in football right now. They're playing the best. They're hot at the right time. They look like they've found a franchise quarterback in Brock Purdy, which is absurd.
Yeah.
As he's Mr. Irrelevant from this past year's draft. But with that being said, the Seahawks did a lot of really good things this year.
Well, and that's to me, I think, is what's interesting about it is that Seahawks, that first half, like still talking about the Niners defense here, that was probably the best the Seahawks could have played in the first half, and probably honestly the best outcome that they would have taken. I mean, a 1-point lead going up into halftime. And it's not even like I think the 49ers defense played super poorly. It's just everything was clicking for the Seahawks. Yeah. But then on the flip side, as soon as the second half happened, it's not even like I think Geno Smith and the Seahawks played bad, but the 49ers just kept coming after you. And is it Joey? There's a Nick.
Nick is on the 49ers.
I keep getting them mixed up. Nick just kept coming after the team. But it's not even just Nick, though. I mean, there's so many other good players on that defense alone.
Yeah.
And then offensively, like Brock Purdy's just the point guard. I mean, when you got Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell scored. George Kittle.
He missed Brett Maher has missed all 4 extra points today. Sorry.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah, he just missed the 4th one.
It's keeping it interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
But Brandon Ayuk is playing great. Is it Trent Sherfield? Trent Sheffield?
The right tackle?
No,
it's Sherfield.
No, but they have another receiver.
I thought Trent Sherfield was a offensive lineman.
I'm pretty sure that was Trent Williams.
Yeah.
Anyways, though,
Jawan Jennings is another one that they have.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. But Shanahan is the best offensive mind in the NFL, in my opinion. I mean, the way he's able to scheme open guys, and he uses each piece perfectly. Where you're Brock Purdy, you just got to make the right decision. But that also being, and not taking anything away from Brock, but like the touchdown with Elijah Mitchell, where they're in the red zone. Evaded pressure, eyes downfield the entire time, and then slinged it across field to a wide open Elijah Mitchell for a walk-in touchdown. I mean, that was not a rookie play. I mean,
No,
we've seen
beautiful play.
We have seen quarterbacks that get drafted like in this 5th, 6th, 7th round, and those are 5th, 6th, 7th round type quarterbacks. They don't really have good an arm. Feel like they're always kind of shaky in the pocket. Don't evade pressure well. Don't make the right decisions. And everything we've seen from him so far, it's like he should have been taken in the first round. He is fitting that offense well, and he has the swagger of a franchise quarterback.
Yeah. So like with him, if he had come out 2 years ago and been in the class with Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and those guys, he would have probably been a 3rd-round pick. He just went back to Iowa State and then did not have a good year. It was just like he did a lot of the things that you just talked about. He looked antsy in the pocket, inaccurate with the football down the field. However, that team was not nearly as good as senior year as it was his junior year. So, like, there's a give and take there. So, I think it's important that that gets taken into consideration. But the 49ers found something in him, and it's really crazy to watch it because it is Tom Brady-esque what he's come in and done for them. So he's just done it a year earlier.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, we'll have to see. It's not, the nice thing for him is he doesn't have to carry the team. Like some of these other quarterbacks that are in the playoffs now.
Yeah, I agree.
And maybe not like carrying might not be the right word for some of these other quarterbacks, but they're like Patrick Mahomes might not carry the team, but he is a key influential piece into their success. Brock Purdy just doesn't need to. He just needs to just kind of be unnoticed, essentially, like that.
Yeah, exactly. Come in, care, like just do your job. Don't do anything extra.
Yeah.
So.
But anyways, let's move on now to the Seahawks, and this is one now. Their season's done, and what a remarkable season! Like all things considered, they do have a top 5 pick, as everyone predicted in the preseason. However, it's not their initial pick; it's the Broncos who they traded with. Somehow they made it to the playoffs. I think the Seahawks were one of 2 teams. I think they were the team voted with the least amount of talent, or top 3. I think going into the season, and projected top 3 pick. And for them to come around and make the playoffs, kudos to Pete Carroll, kudos to Geno Smith, kudos to DK Metcalf, like that entire offense and the defense for really just playing great football, and just scratching and clawing. I think they've made some great moves to help them out for the future, getting Charles Cross as a tackle. Kenneth Walker, I think, has been a hit. I think he's going to keep growing. And for me personally, there's a lot of talk on what's going to happen here. With their quarterback situation come draft time, also with Geno Smith. And for me, I think Geno Smith did everything you asked of him to warrant another year or 2 at the helm, because they still need to improve on the offensive line. They definitely still need to improve defensively with that 3rd or 5th pick now. Yeah, it's the 5th pick because Denver won. You're still going to have access to some of the top defensive linemen, top edge rushers to help immediately on the defensive side. Then you have the 2nd first-round pick. It's going to be, I think, 19th-ish, depending on what happens here, maybe 20th. And you can go get another receiver because Tyler Lockett's going out. You can get offensive line. You can meet a lot of needs and still keep Geno Smith, who I think proved himself as to be a top 32 quarterback, a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL, especially at least within this system.
He had an above average year. I mean, looking at his stats, I think he threw 30.
Well, and I'm just saying that even if he regresses a little bit, I think he would still be well above, like, trying to get a rookie quarterback and then just throwing him in there, or trying to get a more veteran quarterback, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think getting a rookie quarterback does anything for them. Because even if he goes back, so he threw 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Even if he goes 25 and like 13, I still think they're in a really similar situation with the way that the team was playing, because they weren't great on defense, but they were opportunistic. Tariq Woolen had a great year, top-rated PFF cornerback in the NFL. And I think if they have another draft like they did this past year, like you said, getting contributors on both sides of the football, and having guys come in and be not just starting, but like actively contributing on a regular basis, I think in a year or two they'll be much more ready to bring in a young quarterback to mentor and move into the future with. So I think that is the route to go. I think they're at 5. Is that correct?
5 and probably 20th.
5 and 20.
Yeah.
So with Bryce Young and CJ Stroud most likely going in the top 5, you will have a decent shot at Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, and then who's the other edge rusher?
Tyree Wilson.
Yeah, Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech, right?
Yep. Yeah. There's another one as well. Miles Murphy, I think, from Clemson.
Yeah.
Is also there. Yeah.
And then whatever suits your fancy. If you want another tackle, you can get Peter Skoronski. Or
Paris Johnson from Ohio State. Yeah. I think Broderick Jones, also from Georgia, I think has declared. Yeah.
There is a right tackle specialist coming up later in the rounds from Ohio State. I forget his name as well.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But you can get him in the second or third round just because a true right tackle isn't as valuable as a top performing left tackle. So for me, I think that they have a lot of options with that 5 pick. I think they will most likely miss out on CJ Stroud and Bryce Young.
And that's where, from my standpoint, even if they are available, I wouldn't take them. I would stick with Geno Smith. I would be along the camp if Anthony Richardson is still available at 20th. Then that I think would be a perfect guy he's a very raw prospect. I think you have that kind of bonus pick to play with.
Yeah.
And then you can still give Geno Smith a 2-year contract and have Anthony Richardson get NFL experience and grow him kind of into that starting quarterback. Then when that contract is done with Geno Smith, then you can hand the reins over to Anthony Richardson. And he has an established NFL caliber team with him, so to say.
Yeah, no. I 100% agree. I like Anthony Richardson better than Will Levis, but Will Levis is probably going to be a top 15 pick.
We'll have to see once the combines come out, and Trayvon Walker last year was a fringe first round pick, after the Super Bowl, and then within a couple days before the draft, he was then the overall consensus number 1 pick. I don't know.
Agree.
Yeah, so anything can happen between mid-February to late April.
Yeah, just from what I've seen on tape, Will Levis, what I've heard around the league, Will Levis is a very popular prospect just because of his physical skills.
Yeah.
But I think if they can have 2 solid first-round picks this year and next year, they can even move up next year in the draft. Because, unless Sean Payton goes to Denver, I don't see Denver improving that much.
Yeah.
So, actually, if they get good coaching in there, I could see them making it.
Yeah. We'll just have to see. It's it's going to be very interesting to kind of see what Seattle does. I think there's a lot of different routes they could go. They're in the driver's seat, though. I think that I think Pete Carroll kind of established the respect that he had gotten from when he first became the Seahawks coach. I think Seahawks started to dive down. There's a lot of questions about Pete Carroll. I know myself even questioned it as well. And now I think he did a phenomenal job, especially as we talked about. This defense was so. But with not great talent on the field, and yet they produced. Tyreek Woolen had a great season as well. Still areas that they can clearly improve on. Defensive line in particular is one that really needs attention, especially in that division as well.
They need to beef up the trenches a lot, especially in that division, because they got to play the Rams, although it might look like Aaron Donald has retired. I don't know if you've heard about that, but
I think he probably is.
Yeah. So also he's like 32. I didn't realize he was that old. Anyways, so I think that's a division that they are going to need strong offensive and defensive lines to really compete for the top. I mean, if you look at San Francisco right now,
San Francisco's the top dog.
Nuts. Yeah, they're just top dog.
If they want to contend with San Francisco for the division, they're going to need to beef up the offensive line and defensive line, like no question. Like that. That's not even going to be, because honestly, skill position player wise, San Francisco is superior, but not by much. Because I think Kenneth Walker is a good running back. And he's not better than Christian McCaffrey. Yes, DK Metcalf, you can argue, is probably a better pure receiver than anything that San Francisco has. Tight end, George Kittle is one of the best tight ends in the league. Tight end, you just need a guy that can help contribute and be consistent. And so if you could find a future George Kittle, then that would be great, obviously. But I digress. Maybe Michael Mayer from Notre Dame, if he's available with that 20th pick.
That'd be a great one.
That I think would be a good addition. But Seattle, though, great season. Kind of that was kind of one of those. It's great to be here at tight moments. Another team who is, I guess it was a great to be here type moment, and yet they're still playing thanks to like the third biggest comeback in playoff history. Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Can I just say I was very proud of the sports media as the Falcons fan here. Not one Super Bowl reference at all to playoff comebacks. They only talked about the Bills beating the Oilers and then the Colts versus the Chiefs. So I will say
there were Super Bowl references on my broadcast, but
then maybe my subconscious mind just blocked all that out while it was going on.
It was the biggest comeback since in the playoffs since Super Bowl 51.
Yeah,
and I think that to me that game epitomized what Brandon Staley really lacks as a head coach. And that's the ability to close out a game. One of the things that also I think really hurt them was the fact that their offensive line is not good. So they were forced to throw the ball in some situations.
Well, I was looking at, did Rashawn Slater ever come back, or did he play in that game? Because I couldn't find him at left tackle. I don't
think he played.
So, and to me, that's a huge loss. Obviously, yeah. And so, let's get into the Chargers here in a second. Let's talk about Jacksonville. And it's the they're going to be going on playing the Chiefs divisional round. They are playing with house money right now. Their division is awful. All three of their teams are probably going to be going through a rebuild. So I think they got the division next year locked up. But the most important thing, though, is the leaps and bounds difference between Trevor Lawrence at this point last year to now. Yeah. He had a horrible first half. I think some of those picks were a little unlucky. Like his first one, he got tipped. I think he had another one that got tipped as well. But then for him to come back and as a team and showed a lot of growth in that quarterback position. Because that was even one thing I remember thinking when he got drafted is, can he become that elite passer? Because he never really had to become an elite passer or go through reads at Clemson. It was kind of a 1-2 run type quarterback. And now we're seeing him sling it. He was slinging it to every single receiver, all points of the field. Obviously, still some growth and improvement.
With a lot of accuracy.
Yes. Yeah. So, Jacksonville played the Chiefs earlier this year before Jacksonville went on this long run. I think they're on a 7 or 8 game winning streak now. And I think they only lost to the Chiefs by 10. The Chiefs defense is not scary. If it is, I
No.
think is the best way to say it. I didn't, and they have. I mean, you go look at the weapons that the Chiefs have offensively. I think Jacksonville can match them. I mean, they
Yeah.
got a good receiving
No,
core.
definitely.
They got a really good running back core with Travis Etienne and then Jamal Agnew, right, as well. And then they have another
Yeah.
one, Jermichael Hasty as well. I think he's more their third string, change of pace
if
kind of
needed.
guy if needed.
Yeah.
The thing is honestly just going to be if Jacksonville, I think, can rise to the moment and make that a game. I think they can. I mean, they have nothing but momentum on their side, and I think this Chiefs defense is a little vulnerable. So I'm looking forward to our Wednesday episode, doing a little more research, breaking down kind of if I feel like they have a shot going into Arrowhead.
So I have a question. What coming back from the half, it was
27-7.
Yeah, 27-7. Okay. In any way, did you think Jacksonville had a shot?
I'm not gonna lie. The Preds were playing that night, and if Evan Ingram didn't score that touchdown, I remember vividly thinking I think I might just put the Preds game on because it started out so poorly. Los Angeles got up to such a hot start, and then Evan Ingram scored. They went to halftime, and I was keeping track of the Preds just on my phone, and I was like, let's see what happens here. I'm pretty sure Jacksonville got the ball, went right down and scored, and it was a 2-possession game.
3 and out. Jacksonville went on 14 plays.
Yes. Oh, yeah, because Jacksonville got the ball first.
Yeah. 14 plays, 89 yards, 7.5 minutes.
So relatively quickly into the half, Jacksonville got the ball and went down and scored, made a 2-possession game. And at that point, I was like, it's like anything's possible. So I just kept watching. That was essentially it. So it's like but at the end though, I still did not think that going into half, I was like, I just don't know if it wasn't actually anything with the offense. I figured the offense is going to come out guns blazing, and I think that I figured that they were going to start playing better because that was about as worst as that half could have gone for Jacksonville.
Oh yeah.
The thing for me though, and this is a consistent thing that I've seen with the Chargers offense, and it's the entire time with Brandon Staley. Has been that the offense just seems to go stagnant. Just for whatever reason, they just don't. I know now. I did know DeAndre Carter did get hurt at that game. So I remember at one point they said they only had 3 receivers dressed.
Yeah.
And DeAndre Carter is, if I'm not mistaken, is their burner. He's their speed guy that can go over the top. So losing him, I think, kind of made that offense maybe a little bit more predictable. But still, I mean, they need to – they just can't have that happen. It seems like consistently throughout the year, their offense just goes cold, either for a half or for a game, and they just kind of go on this weird little stretch. But then they'll have a game where they're unstoppable, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And that to me is the essence of poor coaching. Because even if – I think if the Chargers in the second half just turn it into, all right, well, we're just going to, give you 5 yards a pop, run the ball on offense, even if they go super conservative, I still think they come out on top of this game just because there's simply not enough time left to score 24, 20, they would have had to score 24 points, which they did to win. And so to me, they were still throwing the ball, still trying to push the ball down the field. And I think they just never should have changed their philosophy from the first half, because obviously that's what was working. So whatever adjustments they made, I put that solely on coaching. And then when they tried to go back to it in the fourth quarter, Jacksonville already had all the momentum. And so that, for me, it just looked like that team was not prepared to play that second half. They just they were just putting in the time and then going to go home with the win. And so I don't know. It's just frustrating to watch because that's just poorly coached. And I don't know. Do you think Brendan Staley's job is at risk over this loss?
Yeah. So I was looking at it before because I was thinking about it. So for 2 years, But I was thinking though, like the Chargers, since Justin Herbert's gotten there, so it's been 3 years now, they have incrementally gotten better and closer. Like the first year he was there, they were just trying to put together games. There was a lot of potential. We could see that they didn't make the playoffs. Last year, they should have made the playoffs. Brandon
But
Staley
again, that was Brandon Staley.
Well, he had some horrible coaching decisions in the couple games leading up to the end of the season. One, obviously, Week 18 game, but also people forget about the Chiefs game where he went for it on 4th down 4 times instead of just taking field goal points, and that would have actually been the difference in the game by a long shot. And then this year, though, you played Mike Williams in the final week in a game that didn't mean anything. Like, I don't see why you play him. He gets hurt, he's out. And they did have in his defense, they did have the injury bug for a long time. Even going back to Justin Herbert hurting his ribs in week 2, that definitely affected that offense over those next couple of weeks. But then Rashawn Slater goes down, Joey Bosa goes down, Derwin James, I'm pretty sure, missed some time. A lot of guys missed some time throughout the bulk of the season to where they could have either fought for the division or got into a rhythm, etc. But yeah, it does keep coming back though to the should you fire him? But at the same time, I'm trying to think, would you, if they knew that they could get Sean Payton? Yes, you fire Brandon Staley immediately. But who's to say though that the next guy isn't going to be a Nathaniel Hackett? Where he comes in and his system does not work, does not mesh well with the current players. Don't like their system. So, I can see the argument both ways. To me, I'm personally leaning towards letting him go and firing him because coaches. Everyone makes mistakes, but now he has consistently made the same mistakes over a 2-season period. Where that, I don't think that it's excusable. You don't play Mike. You don't play your starters in a different. Maybe you do for a half. Or a couple of drives to have him keep rhythm, stay in that game mindset. But who cares if you lose to the Broncos? That does not matter at all.
No, I agree.
A lot of his end of game decisions are just coaching decisions throughout the season. Have affected him.
It's the over aggressiveness in scenarios where it doesn't make sense. So I compare him to Zach Taylor a lot, right? Mm-hmm. Him and Zach Taylor, they were both second year head coaches last year, right? Yeah. With second-year quarterbacks in high-powered offenses. Mm-hmm. And Zach Taylor is gone to a Super Bowl and is on track to compete to go to another, whereas Brendan Staley has had to scratch and claw just to get to the playoffs. Yeah. And to me, that says a lot about him and his philosophy, that he just doesn't make things easy, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, I think that just puts him in a bad light. And I kind of agree. I am leaning towards maybe moving on, pursuing a Sean Payton, a guy that's won a Super Bowl before, or pursuing one of these other young minds, Eric Bieniemy, although I guess there's some bad vibes around Eric Bieniemy and why he hasn't got a head coaching job already. Yeah. And so I just think that is, I think that's the way to go with Justin Herbert. I think it's a possibility that Sean Payton would want to go there. I think that is an option that they pursue. Yeah. And if not, I still think you could get where Brendan Staley has gotten you without him. So yeah,
it's very interesting because for me, honestly, I think, and that's going to be the question the entire offseason for the Chargers is I looked at who is becoming free agents, and as of what I saw right there, just from what I saw, at least. And maybe I didn't get all the information, but not anyone who was super detrimental, at least skill position-wise on the offensive side that I knew of that was leaving. DeAndre Carter's a free agent, but he's definitely replaceable. And not any major defensive names that at least I saw that will become a free agent. So the core of the team is kind of intact, and there's a lot of good talent around Justin Herbert in that offense. I don't know what they do, because for me, as a coaching wise, time management, game management, the decision making just has not been there, and he's consistently made mistakes. So, but we'll definitely have to see. A lot of talking, a lot of time to think about it in the off season. So, but let's now move on, though, to the Sunday games, another divisional playoff round matchup, which was shockingly a lot closer, I think, than a lot of people recognize. But Buffalo Bills barely beat the Miami Dolphins. They're going to be hosting the divisional round game in Buffalo up against Cincinnati, who we'll talk a little bit more about later. But watching that game, though, against Buffalo, it was great to see the reception with Damar Hamlin and seeing that just knowing that the team is going to be playing for him and knowing that he's healthy and safe. And for the city, I think that it was great. But I will say, when I look at the performance on the field, though, the Bills, I just don't know. The Bills just look sloppy. I feel like they've just been playing a little sloppier the second half of this season. What has been your thoughts overall on the Bills?
They're loose with the football. Even in like the Patriots game in Week 18, who they've handily beat the last 3 times they've played, 4 times they've played. They've had multiple turnovers. The Patriots just aren't a team that's necessarily good enough to take advantage of it. The Dolphins, I don't think, are necessarily that team either. However, I think they're explosive enough on offense to at least make them pay a little bit. So it's an interesting dilemma because everybody looks at all these big plays that Josh Allen makes, but I think there's a reason why they've lost to Kansas City the last 2 playoff games that they've played against them, just because they make crucial mistakes. And some of that, I think, is just them being loose with the football. Some of that is, I think, the system that they play in. However, they do it time and time again. So
yeah, especially in particular to like the second half of the season, it definitely seems like Allen's been a little bit more loose with the football. He's had several more interceptions, several more.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the stats on that.
Oh no, you're good. Julio Jones touchdown. It's always good to see. But even then, I was thinking about it, and it's not all the defense's fault that Miami put up 31 points, because I know that there was a defensive touchdown, not 2. I'm trying to remember, but also then a lot of those turnovers were in Buffalo Bills territory, so that was a short field for Miami to work with. But I was just thinking, as a whole, that Buffalo's team should not have given up 31 points. And I was saying, I'm not blaming it all on the defense. Definitely, offense had a lot of fault in that for the amount of total points that the Dolphins got. But you said Skylar Thompson is the quarterback who played well, all things considered. Yeah. But they Dolphins don't really have a run game. They really just have those two wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Mike Gesicki is good. I'm not taking any credit away from him, but he's not a lethal threat. Dawson Knox, I think, is significantly better than Mike Gesicki. And actually, Mike Gesicki is a poor man Dawson Knox. How about that? And so for me,
they're different, but
okay. Either way, though, I just look at a whole, and that game never should have been that close. If it's a Buffalo team that we all think of, they should have it should have been a blowout, minimum 2 touchdown lead, which I think that's what the spread was going into the game. Of course, I always say no, it's just betting, but if they want to advance and if they want to beat the Bengals this upcoming Sunday, they're going to have to protect the ball better. A defense is going to have to sharpen up because they're going to be playing a Bengals team that is offense is night and day better than Miami's offense, and then they've got a front 4 led by Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard that I think are going to be getting after the quarterback. And that's one thing too that I didn't know about this. going into this game, though. But Buffalo has been dealing with offensive line injuries, and going up against that Miami front, that their front seven, it's like they are legit, led by Jalen Phillips. They can absolutely get after the quarterback and terrorize them, which is what they did. I felt like Josh Allen was under pressure a lot during this past game. So
Bills, I have the Josh Allen stats. So he threw 6 interceptions in the first 8 games, and he threw 2, 4, 5, 7, 8 in the last 9 games. However, I know for a fact he had 2 fumbles against Miami on Sunday. He also had a fumble, and Devin Singletary had a fumble against the Patriots in Week 18. And so, like, for me, it is the sheer number of turnovers that, like, if you give Kansas City a fumble on the 9-yard line, like they're scoring a touchdown there. They're not New England where they're gonna do a little like 3 shitty plays and then kick a field goal, right? Like, so for me, when you get into these like playoff games, especially Cincinnati is scoring a touchdown there, like so like that for me is the big difference. So it'll be interesting to see if they could clean that up here in these last few games of the season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think that it's going. They're going to have to. You know, they've got a couple more games left to win the Super Bowl, which is obviously their ultimate goal. I think they can do it, but they just seem off. They don't seem like how they were last year coming into the playoffs, where that offense was just legit, and maybe something that has to do with Brian Dable offense, creativity that he had, and so, but let's move on though now to Miami, as in Miami that made the playoffs for the first time in I think was it 7 years. I think 2016 was the last time they made it.
Like 11. I think you're thinking of the Jets. I think.
Maybe I'm trying to remember. I thought it was 2016 was the last time they made it, but it's been a long time. They've become close the past couple of years. Ever since they drafted Tua, every year had been close, and so. But they finally make it now, and they've made some good moves. And I will say, I've up until this season, I was like a pro Tua guy. Is like I don't think we've seen enough of him. He hasn't had a good offensive line around him. Hasn't had really a good team around him. Also, he's constantly been hurt. But now, though, really after kind of watching him this year, seeing him on some primetime games, I just don't think he's the guy. I think he's seems like he's consistently hurt. Not blaming the concussions on him. Concussions happen, but now he's consistently hurt. But also on top of that, I just don't think he has the arm with how speedy you want your receivers to be, or how speedy your receivers are with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You need a guy that can throw it 60, 65 yards, and I don't think Tua can do that. He struggles to get the ball. Well, he does struggle to get the ball out quick. He can do that, but they have to do short, specific, intermediate routes like that fits their offense. But then when Tyreek burns a guy deep, your quarterback's got to be able to make that 65-yard throw to the corner, because Tyreek Hill is going to just run past anybody. And for me, I wonder what they're going to be doing this offseason, because there's going to be some veteran quarterbacks who I think could fit into that system really well. And they're not really like the super runny guys. Like, go look at Derek Carr. I mean, he's mobile, yes, but I mean, Tua's more mobile than him. But
I think Brady could go there.
I think Brady could go there as well if he wants to stay in Florida. And so I just don't think Tua is going to be the guy for them. I want to hear your thoughts on that as well.
No, I agree. I mean, it was weird. So I have his QBR right here for the first half versus the second half. So first half of the season, 77, 90, 81, 44, 45, 93, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then it was 79, 94, 82, 18, 28, 53, 25. And it's just like, what were they doing different in the second half of the season to where he just wasn't doing nearly as well? And the only thing I can think of is that they were running the same offensive scheme, and defense is just adjusted. And because of Tua's limitations, they couldn't run anything else.
Yeah. Well, and another thing too is look at their schedule. I think their schedule was significantly easier in the first half of the season.
Actually, where it was easiest was kind of in the middle. They played Pittsburgh, Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, Houston, all in a row.
Yeah, and you know what? That's actually
about Tua played.
Well, and that's about the time as well when I think they were the number 1 overall seed, or they were at least winning the AFC East.
Yeah.
And then as they got
8-1,
yeah,
and then they were 8-5 this year with Tua losing the last 4 games that he played.
Yeah.
So
it's for me, and it's tough to, but I think Tua, he has gotten better, yes, especially from his rookie year. But I almost think he limits that offense. And there's other things that Miami needs to address as well. Like for me, I'm a big guy in the trenches. They still need to improve the offensive line tremendously. They have made strides, yes, but for that offense to be super effective, you do have to have a running game. Yeah, I mean, you have to have a serious running game. Well, so you need to have a serious running game in general. But they're consistently over the past couple of years at the bottom of the average running yards per game, and so
they're averaging over a sack a game.
Yeah,
like
and that's
well,
another one as well.
Over a sack a game.
Yeah. So and for me, because I like that I like the aggressive style of that defense. I think, as I mentioned already, but with that game specifically with the Bills, they get after the quarterback, Jalen Phillips. I think is going to be turned into one of the better edge rushers in the NFL if he's not already kind of up there in those conversations. So for me, I think they really need to address the offensive line, but they really need to take a good look at quarterback to see if Tua is the guy or if there's someone else that can come in immediately and help them out. Yeah, because they have the pieces there, in my opinion.
No, they definitely do. I like what they do on defense. I think that they could definitely improve, especially like the linebacker position, kind of mid-level. However, I really think this offseason they need to focus on building up that offensive line, because the way that they play defense, they kind of play like a zone blitz heavy scheme. And if they do that and are putting up 30 to 40 points a game, like they were doing in the first half of the season, I think that team wins 12 games next year.
Oh yeah.
Just because that's when you turn these games into track meets and you have Tyreek Hill, it's hard for teams to keep up.
Yeah. Oh, well, no, it's hard for any team to keep up to Tyreek Hill, but then you have Jalen Waddle, who I think
exactly.
I forgot how fast Jalen Waddle was just because like Tyreek Hill's running next to him. I'm like, oh, he's keeping pace. Like Jalen Waddle is like ridiculously fast.
Oh yeah.
But he's the
Jalen
second
Waddle
fastest
was
guy
also a track star. He just wasn't like, he's not an Olympic level track athlete like Tyreek Hill was.
Yeah.
And so for me, that is that is what the Dolphins need to do. Now, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the Dolphins talking about firing Mike McDaniel to make a push for another coach?
I mean, I would say like you specifically hired Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel got you to the playoffs with an injury-riddled quarterback room, with Teddy Bridgewater even still not like being a healthy backup. And so I think in his first year, it's similar, I think, to the Geno Smith conversation. He did everything that you asked him to do. I think he's going to be one of the next young minds, offensive minds. And I think we've only seen the surface for him and his offensive creativity, because they can't really run the ball. And Tua doesn't have most athletic arm in the NFL. So I think that would be a horrible decision, personally. I think Mike McDaniel is your guy. Next, Don Shula. No, not really. But
no, I agree. I mean, I think that's a stupid mistake to make.
Yeah. I can absolutely, as we talked about before, I can see getting rid of Brandon Staley for Sean Payton. I don't know. I don't know if it would be worth it to get rid of Sean Payton, to get rid of Mike McDaniel for Sean Payton. If that
No, I
makes
agree.
sense.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
Especially like the dude led you at one point. You were the 1 seed in the AFC.
yeah.
Like, and then Tua had concussions and whatnot, but you ended up, you limped into the playoffs, but you made the playoffs. And so that for me, I think is reason enough to at least give him another try at it.
With their expectations. Oh, I mean, I would think several more tries at it. You know, it's I don't think he has done anything egregiously awful. And so it's interesting too that we talk about this, and we just talked about Brandon Staley as well, because it is kind of like I think Mike McDaniel helped improve Miami's chances a lot in a lot of games.
I do.
Brandon Staley, I think,
is
costs games. It is costing games. So who's to say it is just 1 year?
And there could also be internal things going on that we don't know about. I just think it's an interesting dilemma because I don't think they should have ever fired Brian Flores. However, that was a thing, and like I don't know, and just like that didn't make sense to me last year.
Well, if I'm remembering correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason why Brian Flores wanted to move on from Tua. And the owners and the GM were like, no, like we want to keep Tua. So I think that there was some.
I think it was the way he went about handling Tua also that partially got him fired. I think he was open with Tua about his view on him, which I think is a poor way to manage a quarterback who's already being shit on by multiple members of the media and not performing well.
Near everybody. But we'll have to see. It's going to be interesting, I think, in the upcoming, like just in the upcoming offseason, because Miami doesn't have a first-round pick. They forfeited, actually, I think, specifically with those talks with Sean Payton and also Tom Brady as well. So what they do. And just before we switch, just an immediate quick little thought. Mike McDaniel came from San Francisco. San Francisco is going to be dealing a quarterback this offseason because they have 3 starting quarterbacks. So maybe Jimmy G to Miami. I think that might fit in well in that system.
Tua.
Yeah. So he's played in a Super Bowl too. So
Anyways,
but now let's move on though to the next game, the afternoon game, where the New York Giants had the first upset. What I would classify as an upset.
We both predicted it.
Yeah, we both predicted it. But over the Minnesota Vikings. Great game in general. I think that this was I think this was an evenly matched game, and I think the better team definitely did end up winning. And for me, the Giants, in last week's video, we talked about coach of the year, who should be coach of the year. And for me, that to me then just solidifies, yes, Kyle Shanahan, I like to your point, is probably the best coach in the league, but it's like one of those, it's like who's like the next new and up and coming that changed a franchise, came in there and did the right thing. And Brian Daboll, you go look at this team from week 1 against Tennessee, where they barely win, to now through all the injuries that they've been through, and you go look at the offensive performance that Daniel Jones had, Saquon Barkley, and that entire offense had. Like, to me, I think he's coach of the year, and what he has absolutely turned this franchise around, because they were a joke for the past couple of years. Daniel Jones was on his way out of the NFL, or maybe a journeyman backup, and they just looked.
I want to say last week this was my side of the argument.
No. I was the one saying Brian Daboll should be coach of the year, and you're like, everything you just said I could say about Kyle Shanahan. So maybe you were agreeing with me, but I guess maybe that's just how you said it. I thought you were disagreeing with me.
No. I mean, I agree. I think Brian Daboll should be coach of the year. What he's done for that team, I mean, they're really not that much different than they were last year. Like, they have Kayvon Thibodeau now.
That's a big change.
That was their only first-round pick.
Yeah, I would say that they're actually a lot, because none of the receivers that started, I think, were there last year. I mean, maybe Darius Slayton was there last year,
Darius Slayton was there last year. Kenny Galladay was there last year.
Yeah, but Kenny Galladay hasn't done it. I think he's only had 4 catches on the entire year. He hasn't done anything.
Yeah. No, but
so,
that's
but it's
what I'm
like
saying. It's like they're largely the same that they were from last year.
Well, Sterling Shepard's out. But for me though, like he put all the pieces together in the offensive system that he is he has put together. Their defense is solid. They were able to kind of stymie the Vikings offense to the best of their ability, essentially. And they just kept getting after the quarterback because of Kayvon Thibodeau and company. So I just like where the Giants are going. I think Daniel Jones is playing his way into a bigger contract, a franchise quarterback potentially for the Giants here. And also, I think Saquon Barkley as well.
Tag one of them and then like extend the other.
I think you franchise tag Barkley personally. Have him have another year, see how he does with his legs, and then give him a couple more year contract.
I actually think I think the other way around, because you could have a 1-year wonder with Daniel Jones.
I mean, yeah, you could.
And then if he does well, franchise tag and then extend him again.
Yeah. I guess there's no wrong way to look about doing that.
Yeah. Because also too, I think Saquon. I think if you just extend him until he's 29, like I think that's a 3-year deal. Then I think like that'll suffice for Saquon Barkley's time in New York.
Because Saquon's 26.
Yeah, he's 25 or 26.
Yeah, so he's getting close. He's getting close to he's on the latter half of his career. He's probably still in his prime, but he's like going to start the downward trend soon.
Yeah. And so like I don't know. The Giants did a lot of really good things. I do want to talk about the Vikings for the most part of this segment. Okay, so they had a fantastic season. However, the chinks in the armor were very apparent throughout the whole year. That defense is not very good. And if you take if you're able to limit Justin Jefferson, because you cannot take him out of the equation, if you limit Justin Jefferson, they don't have much else. TJ Hawkinson came on later, but Adam Thielen isn't really a solid option anymore.
This might have been. I didn't see his contract, but Thielen might retire at the end of the year. So I think he's 32 or 33, and I agree. It was definitely. You noticed his age. He was not the elite receiver like how we're used to seeing. The other good option, and he hasn't panned out. He's had moments like the Colts game. He had an absolute day, but those moments are few and far between. He hasn't panned out to the number 2 that they're hoping for. The thing for me, I agree with you completely on the defense, but the thing for me, if they're going to have that type of offense and you still have Dalvin Cook in the backfield, their offensive line sucks. Like just to put it nicely,
it's not good.
When they face a team with a competent pass rush, I mean, let's look at Dallas, for example. Let's look at the first half of the Colts game. Let's look at both games when they played against the Giants. The
Packers game.
The Packers game is another one.
Second Packers game.
Yeah. The Bills also. They got lucky with the Bills, but the Bills still they have a solid pass rush, and the
Patriots also played them very tough.
Yeah. So they they need to address the offensive line. And I think where they're picking, there's going to be a couple prospects that they can immediately go get. But that should be the number one concern, in my opinion. Because especially then if they're going to keep Kirk Cousins, he's not the most mobile. He's definitely obviously more of a pocket passer, but he's not going to threaten the defense with his legs. So they attacked him. And they just couldn't do that. And I know everyone keeps bringing it up, but the Dallas game was just the most noteworthy. I mean, like Dallas would just send 5 guys, and they couldn't block all 5 guys. And so Kirk Cousins has less than 2 seconds to get rid of the ball. And And when his number one option going, like, immediately look at Justin Jefferson, teams double team him. And then by then, Kirk Cousins can't really try and find a second receiver. He's done. So if they want to make a deeper run into the playoff, they have to address that offensive line immediately.
No, yeah. I 100% agree. And their secondary, I think, would be better if they would beef up the front seven a lot.
Yeah.
If they don't get one of the top tackles in the draft, I think it would be worth taking a look at some of the edge rushers that fall.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done too deep of a dive yet into this year's draft class. However, there's always seems to be a guy like Jermaine Johnson or Jalen Phillips that fall to the early 20s. Like that could be a stud edge rusher.
Yeah.
Just maybe like production wasn't quite there in college, or maybe the talent he went up against wasn't quite to par. There's a lot of guys that come out like that, and I think that is the route that they need to go. Beef up the trenches coming into next year. They have a good shot at the division next year. However, Lions are knocking on the door. The Packers are going to be in this weird limbo state, I think, with either Aaron Rodgers trying to come back for another year, Jordan Love taking over for his first full year, and then the Bears are going to suck. But those three teams, I think, are really going to make a push, and I think the Vikings need to beef up in the trenches to make those games interesting.
Well, especially too, like you're talking about the division. Like if I look at the Lions and the Packers, like if the Packers' offensive line is healthy, like with David Bakhtiari and everything, it's like Packers on average, they have a well above average offensive line. Lions' offensive line is going to be or should be a top 10 offensive line next year. So if they're going to have to get after Jared Goff or stop that Lions offense at all, they're going to need to get after the quarterback, and they're just not able to do that at all. Daniil Hunter is really good edge rusher. He's just getting up there in age, and I don't think they have very little youth behind him.
Only one.
Yeah.
So once you put a running back on his side, it's like, okay, the tackle can stay inside, and if he goes out wide, he just gets chipped. Like, so that limits his production greatly. Yeah. So, and then that reduces you to blitz packages and scheming pressure, which is risky. Like that doesn't always work. So for me, I think building up the trenches on both sides of the ball is the way that they need to go. This is a good class for doing that, as well as this is a good free agency and draft class for doing that. And who knows, maybe they'll be improved next year. So they did get lucky in a lot of games this year that they should have lost.
They should have lost a lot. Yeah.
The Bills game comes to mind. I'm not saying they should have lost the Patriots game, but
they should have lost. Yeah, like
the Patriots gave them a touchdown basically with running into the kicker call. Well, like just a stupid, blatant running into the kicker. The Patriots would have had the ball to 25.
Yeah.
So,
well, and one final thing too, while we have a couple minutes left with this Vikings game is. What do you think they do with Kirk Cousins? Do you think Kirk Cousins stays there for another year? Or
I mean,
because he's not
the QBR. He was a top 7 quarterback in the NFL this year. I know he's not that.
Okay, fair. But how much of that though is has to do with Justin Jefferson though?
Oh, a lot.
Yeah. So I don't think he's the guy to take them, because with where they're at now, I don't think he's the guy that will take them to the Super Bowl. I just don't think he is that guy. Even if they put the pieces around him, I don't know what you do with it. I need to go look at his contract situation. But eventually, even after 2023, they have to move on from him, because you're going to be getting to Jefferson's prime. You need to be building the other pieces around him for the young quarterback you're going to draft, or the veteran quarterback you're going to trade for. But I just don't think Kirk Cousins there. I do think he's one of the statistically better quarterbacks in the league, but he just cannot seem to get the Vikings over that hump.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kirk Cousins can do it, but he's not going to be like this team with Kirk Cousins at quarterback could potentially win a Super Bowl. They'd have to have a lot of things go their way, and you cannot rely on Kirk Cousins to make a play. Right? And so I agree that they might, like, if they have a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen, or they can go get a guy like that, I think, yeah, maybe that's worth it. But again, you're talking about a guy that was top 10 in the NFL and QBR this year. Like, it's not exactly like there's only 9 other guys that can do what he did this year.
Yeah.
And so that for me, it's like where it's hard.
Yeah.
So,
no, and that's where I get the statistics as well. Side of it, yes, but then I think a lot of that though was maybe a little bit of an easier schedule, some luck in some games. I think the assistance of Justin Jefferson catching borderline everything, helping out on his stats, and so for me, I think long term, big picture, like Kirk Cousins just is not the guy for me.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see another option for them next year because they're not going to be in a position to draft one unless they draft an Anthony Richardson or
that could be a guy,
Hendon Hooker, or
no, not Hendon Hooker. Yeah.
Well, but that's what I mean. It's like unless they're going to draft a project and do that. But honestly, at that point, I would rather wait until rounds 5 and 6 and see if you can find yourself a Brock Purdy.
It's hard to find a Brock Purdy. There aren't too many Brock Purdys. And so.
No, but exactly. But if you look at the number of first round busts that are taken, it's like I think that 22nd pick or whatever that they have would be much better spent on a right tackle, defensive lineman, or almost anything else.
Oh no, and I don't disagree with you that on the well. I'm wondering through free agency or through trades, and I do see like the fault in my point, especially for this off season, is like, are you going to cut Kirk Cousins, try and trade for Derek Carr? Because is that big of an improvement? No, like it is not. Also, and to your point, statistically, it is not that big of an improvement. It actually would be a regression if we're going by the statistics. So what you do in that situation, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be the guy, and I'll be the first one to eat my words if he takes me to the Super Bowl next year and they win. But we saw Joe Burrow last year with the worst offensive line, and he took them to the Super Bowl, getting sacked. It felt like 100 times in the playoffs alone, and he was still able to manage getting around a weak offensive line and take that team to the Super Bowl. And there's a lot more that goes into that. Yes. The Bengals defense was definitely better than the Vikings defense was going into the playoffs, but
and they got hot and a little lucky.
Yeah, but like they won those games. Like Joe Burrow was able to figure out a way to lead that offense down and just score more points than the Tennessee Titans, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Chiefs. So, but yeah, the fun thing to think about going into the offseason, at least with the Vikings, it's very obvious what needs to be fixed and what needs to be kept. So, but let's move on to the final game, though. Another divisional matchup. We had 3 divisional round matchups here, but the Sunday night game, Baltimore Ravens going to Cincinnati Bengals. What a game! That similar to the Bills game. I'm kind of actually shocked it was that close.
Ravens just came out with an excellent game plan in the first half.
Yeah, well, they're able to stop that offense. Kept getting after the quarterback kept stopping Jamar Chase and company, and. Yeah, they just played really well, and let's get to them in a second. But with the Bengals, I kind of have similar thoughts about the Bengals as I do the Bills, where I um I don't think the Bills, unlike the Bills, the Bengals have gotten hot and stayed hot. However, in this game though, they just did not look like the Bengals team that I was expecting to see in the first round of the playoffs. It felt like they were a little flat. It props to the Baltimore defense as well for stymieing them a lot. I think they came out hard and played really well. But I I, I think that it should not. I don't think the Bengals played that well. I think they got lucky with the fumble on the goal line and that returned that for a touchdown. And then Baltimore, if they maybe managed their time a little bit better, would have had a better opportunity than just a 40-yard Hail Mary to end the game, which was almost caught. So what's your take on the Bengals going into the divisional round here? And do you agree, disagree with kind of my view on it?
I slightly disagree. So to me, with the Bills, they just played the Dolphins a couple weeks ago and smacked them around. I want to say it was
the Bills-Dolphins game.
Yeah.
No, that was the snowy game. That came down to chip field goal.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Like, it was a good Tua played. That was a great game, actually.
So, I guess it's just the opportunistic or the opportunities that Buffalo presents to allow other teams to capitalize on it. Whereas, like, even when the Bengals don't play well, they're still not really giving the defense a whole lot of chances to make plays, right? And the Bengals played the Ravens 2 other times, and both of those games were close. And I get the Bills played the Dolphins 2 other times, and those games were both close as well. They actually lost one. And the Bengals actually lost the first meeting also against the Ravens. So, for me, I just don't have the same level of concern with the Bengals offense for some reason. I think it was just a divisional game, like, where anything can happen, and like the Ravens just showed up with a really good game plan that day.
Yeah.
I don't think the Dolphins did anything that like really wowed me. Whereas like the Ravens actually made plays to put points on the board, and made some really good defensive plays by Kyle Hamilton, the rookie safety out of Notre Dame. And to me, like, that is what stood out to me more than just like, wow, the Bengals really suck. It was more like, man, the Ravens came to play today.
Yeah.
Whereas like the Bills, it's like, okay, they should be moving the ball up and down the field pretty easily, but Josh Allen threw 2 interceptions.
They keep making turnovers.
Yeah. And that for me is what's concerning with the Bills.
Yeah.
So
no, and that's a good observation because that is a good point. Overall, defensively, I think Baltimore was much more well-rounded, much better prepared than which Tampa Bay player is down?
17. Was it Russell Gage?
Yeah, it's Russell Gage. I was like, oh shoot, if Tom Brady
he kind of went for a pass and like the Dallas player went to like knock the ball out. I don't know. It was a weird thing, but he hit him like on the jaw and kind of knocked him out.
Oh,
like,
jeez.
With it,
yeah. So, and that's a good point as well. I also think too, John Harbaugh and that Ravens defense has always been really good. So I think they always come ready to play. The thing for me though, which I guess gets me a little more concerned with the Bengals offense, is they had another offensive lineman go down. Their left tackle Williams. He has a dislocated kneecap. I'm not really sure that's obviously severe, but I'm not sure if that's one like you just pop it back into place, you ice it up, and then you're ready to go for next Sunday. I'm sure he's going to give it every shot he goes. But
one of my high school friends had an issue with that, and it is that way, and it's not that way. Like, so like you pop it back into place, put some ice on it, get the swelling to go down. However, you probably need a knee brace and some PT to get the muscles and ligaments to strengthen back up around it. How long that is totally case by case. It depends on how long it's out for, like what gets torn when it goes out. Like there's a lot of X factors that go into it.
Well,
So
and so that's what I'm saying with the Bengals now. With this, they've lost a couple other offensive linemen as well to some injuries, and so to me, and maybe that's part of the reasons why, like I'm seeing that, and I have some concerns, or at least just like some of those initial questions earlier about the offense, and just particularly the offense. I think their defense is the Bengals defense. I think it's pretty consistent week in and week out. We kind of know
yeah,
what we're going to get from them. Good front four, good linebacking core, mediocre secondary that benefits from the good front seven. But that offensive line, though, if Joe Burrow doesn't have time to pick apart defenses, go through his progressions, and also if they're not able to run the ball very effectively with Joe Mixon, we're kind of starting to see a little bit of what that we might see what we saw last year in the playoffs, where it's like, or just the Bengals just in general, where they're just super scrappy and try and pick up these yards, bubble screens, try and definitely use a lot of visual deception
yeah,
to get guys open. Unlike when they went on this huge run when all the offensive linemen were healthy,
yeah,
and they're just throwing 350 passing yards, 35 points. It can just pick apart all sections of the defense. So
yeah,
that's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on for the Bengals going into the divisional round.
yeah. I think the left tackle actually came in, and once we got in a rhythm, actually played fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree. I think it's going to limit them in some ways. To me, I actually think it limits them in the run game more because they can't run that what do you call it, halfback draw outside
Yeah.
to the outside of the tackle, because they might not just have that athleticism or that push that they might want on that side. So that limits them in the run game in that way.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to watch going forward.
Yeah.
With Buffalo, I don't think it's as big of a deal because I don't think Buffalo's pass rush on the edge is what is really concerning. To me, it's those linebackers coming up the middle
Yeah.
that really throws offenses off tempo.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get more into that matchup because that's gonna be a fun matchup to kind of analyze. But
Yeah,
I will just say, like, without having Von Miller, yeah, that pass rush definitely is affected a lot. So, but let's wrap this up though, and let's talk really kind of what's going to happen with the Ravens in the offseason. And
yeah,
giant elephant in the room, Lamar Jackson not playing. I think I heard should be ready to go this week, like on it come a Monday, like expected to be ready to go. I think the final 2-3 weeks in the season, even at the beginning of last week, like Lamar Jackson expected to be ready for the playoffs, and then boom, he doesn't play. He has this tweet nearly kind of saying like, "Hey, I don't feel 100% confident in my knee. That's why I'm not playing." And a lot of theories going around the contract negotiations. I think Lamar Jackson wants to get paid $40 million, just like how Dak Prescott gets paid. A lot of these other top quarterbacks get paid. And to me, personally, I don't think he's worth that much money. I mean, I think he's a mid.
too risky.
It's too risky.
Because
one with the style of game that he plays and shoot now. If he's saying like my knee's not 100% to play the game of football I want to play, be like, okay, well I'm not going to pay you $40 million or plus. If one little, I did not say it was a tough injury that he got hurt on, but he definitely needs of all the quarterbacks, he needs his legs. And that's the way that he plays football, is running the ball, 1,000-yard rusher every single year. And he's not the most accurate of quarterbacks. And also, too, if he think he is a more accurate quarterback, I don't see why he would want to come back to Baltimore. They don't have any receivers. Like I don't normally tweet too much under our Twitter handle. _Tracy_Take. Follow us if you're not. But I even said, think watching the Chargers Jacksonville game, they were doing a promo, and I've never seen a promo with the tight end as their promo guy. It was like Ravens Bengals, and they had Mark Andrews because he's their best player on the team. And, well, at least on the offensive side of the ball, they had no one else. You're not going to put Tyler Huntley up there. You're not going to put J.K. Dobbins up there.
No, I agree.
So for me, if I'm Lamar, I don't I wouldn't want to go there. I would go to Miami. I would go to
that would actually be kind of terrifying.
I would go to
Imagine
Houston.
the amount of speed on that Miami team if he goes
that
there.
would be stupid. Shoot, I honestly, heck, I would go to the Colts. I think the Colts would also be a good fit for Lamar.
Yeah, but with the track record of the Colts, I don't think that they can keep a guy or keep a coach there long enough.
I think a lot of coaches would want to go there if they had Lamar's speed and just the creativity you could have. Also with Alec Pierce, Jonathan Taylor. Anyways, we're going down a whole different route there, though. But for me, I think Lamar's done in Baltimore. I also don't think Baltimore wants to have Lamar as well.
No, I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back with all the contract negotiations that have been going on. It's a bad look for Lamar. And I think that's it. Like, not to compare it to like relationships and talking to girls, but like, how like there's that girl, like you guys go back and forth, right? And you're trying to decide whether you're dating or whether you're like still not dating or whatever. And there's like that awkward phase, and then like one person just kind of does one thing to like rub the other the wrong way, and they're like, all right, whatever. Like, just, what, we're just gonna be like, we're gonna be friends. Yeah.
It's like I wasn't sure about this to begin with, and then now how you're acting is like, okay, just kind of solidifies it.
Yeah. And I think that is what Lamar Jackson just did, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the last game of the season, right? Like if your leg's not healthy, like, or not 100%, but it's 90%, figure it out. Like
yeah. Well,
I don't want to. And then for me, that I'm going to make a $40 million a year investment to you, which right now I think is a little under a fifth of a team's total salary cap. Like, okay, well, if you're at 90% and I'm paying you $40 million, go be 90%.
Yeah.
Don't sit on the sideline and send out tweets saying about how you don't feel good. Like, go earn your money.
Yeah. I think that Lamar made a business decision, which I fully respect. I get why, but I wonder if that's going to come back to backfire on him, because I think there are going to be teams who see that and what he said and potentially how it was
especially coupled with his style of play.
Yeah. I think teams are going to be very hesitant to pay him the type of contract. And so because I don't think he offers enough. Like, imagine like if Patrick Mahomes said that, or shoot, even like if Tom Brady said that, or who's another guy as well.
Tom Brady came out. Remember that Jacksonville game where he had the cut on his hand, on his right hand, and he's like, "Guys, my hand is only at 90% today."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry, Tom, but you got to go out there and throw the football. Like,
and that's what Tom would figure it out. Yeah, Tom would absolutely figure it out, and so Patrick Mahomes would figure it out as well. Shoot, you're telling me a guy like Geno Smith, would figure it out. Like he doesn't get this opportunity that much. He has the starting jobs. Like, I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to go play. And so if he doesn't feel his knees healthy enough to play, I get that, but I think teams are going to recognize that as well.
Yeah, I agree. That was one thing. Sorry, last thing I'll say about this. J.C. Jackson was the best corner on the free agent market last year. Mike Evans just dropped a touchdown pass. Oh my God. Like, it would have been 21-31 with 2 minutes left. Sorry. J.C. Jackson was the best corner in the class last year, but he wasn't like that good, and teams, I think, recognize that. So instead of paying him $21 million like a top corner, he only got like $16 million from the Chargers, which is still a lot of money, but he's not a top 5 corner in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So, like, that is what he got paid. He got paid for what he was. And I think Lamar Jackson is going to get paid for what he is. And I think he is a potential top 10 quarterback in the NFL who has a high injury risk and is going to sit out on your team. Ooh, that's a flag.
Yeah.
and who's going to sit out on your team if he's not 100%.
Yeah.
And like
that's just the perception. I mean, like I'm sure
Yeah.
there's information that we don't know about, but yeah, that's definitely the perception. So, but now, so outside of Lamar, I think the Ravens need help in almost everything else. it's like
Actually,
going into this offseason. Their defense, their defensive front is good.
I agree and disagree.
I think they need help in the offensive line. I think they need help receiver wise. Maybe running back wise, they don't.
It's a lot of offense, and I think you can get running backs cheap.
Oh yeah.
Defensively,
no. Shoot, we saw
Marcus
last
Peters,
year.
Marlon Humphreys, I think are good. They just were injured all year.
Okay,
they're also getting old. Like they are getting older, so you need to bring in young guys behind them. But like linebacking wise, Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, Odafe Owe?
Yeah, Roquan Smith is hitting the free agent market. He was that trade from.
They extended him.
Oh, they did extend him? Okay,
Yeah,
I must have missed that.
Yeah,
okay. Well, then that's a good extension.
Yeah. And then they just signed the defensive tackle from UConn last year.
Oh, shoot. I remember we talking about it. He was a good prospect.
Brown, Travis.
I can't remember. But
I forget his name. But
yeah, to me, offensively, especially if Lamar leaves, I think they were just an improvement on everything except tight end one. That is essentially it. They have no receivers whatsoever. Offensive line needs some improvement, especially with the style of play that they like to have, which is that run first, play action type offense. You need to have receivers to throw to. I agree with you on the running back side. I mean, keep signing just young running backs because we even saw it was last year. I think J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and they had another one, I think, all go down with season-ending injuries. So they were using practice. They got Devontae Freeman back last year. They just plugged and played these guys, to just fill in the running back role, and they did absolutely fine,
I agree.
So
but to me, I think they really need help at receiver, and they really need help on that O-line. They have Tyler Linderbaum, who was a rookie this year. And then to me, it's that right tackle and I think right guard that they're really struggling at. So rebuilding that is key.
Yeah.
So
do you think Tyler Huntley could be the guy for them? Not the guy, but
he's a stopgap. I think he could be their starter. I mean, I think he could be their starter.
I did notice watching the guy. I thought he played well. I think he had some good drives with them, and in the biggest game of the year, almost led them to the touchdown leading drive. But the one thing that I noticed, he just seems to bounce around a lot in the pocket.
He does. He's little. He's like
he is little.
10.
Yeah.
So that for me, like he's a stopgap guy. I don't know. He could be good, but I don't think they re-sign Lamar. That's the biggest takeaway. I think they rebuild inside and out, and then make a move for a quarterback a year and a half from now.
You know what? It's like don't re-sign Lamar. Save that $40 million. I think you'll have to re-sign Tyler Huntley to a $10 million deal or something like that. But then use that extra $30 million. Go get that offensive lineman. Go get 2 or 3 good receivers. Go make some trades or something like that. Definitely scout the receiving prospects in this year's draft because there are some good ones, especially some good ones you might be able to get in the second and third round. But yeah, I think the time in Baltimore for Lamar is done, and it's going to be a kind of mini rebuild, I think, as well. And even defensively, they do need to get some younger legs in there, especially in the secondary.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that defense is good, especially if they can game plan. When that defense was elite, they had a good safety and a really good linebacking group that pass rushed really well. And I think they have a really good linebacking group. They have a good young safety prospect. I think they're just kind of waiting on that pass rush to catch up. and then I think they'll be good on defense. So,
yeah, I will say, hey, while I mean, shoot, this game just ended.
let's
talk about the sixth team that just lost there, Tampa Bay, falling short again in the playoffs for a second year in a row. What do you think Tom Brady does from here?
I think he moves to another team. I don't think he's done. Because frankly, he didn't suck this year. He did a lot of things really well. Yeah, was he more inaccurate than he has been almost throughout his whole career? Yes, but he's also had the sloppiest pockets he's ever had.
Probably the worst offensive line health I think he's had his entire career.
Ever. And so I just think, I think he goes to another team. I don't know if it's Miami. I don't think that is where he would be best. For me, San Francisco is the place.
That would be crazy. I don't see how San Francisco – not that I couldn't see that happening, but it's like I don't see how you have this thing with Brock Purdy. You have this you still have Jimmy Garoppolo. You still have Trey Lance. Like, we don't even know with Trey Lance.
Yeah.
And then you go give all that up for Tom Brady. The one to me that as of right now, just potentially maybe would make sense is just because he has worked with Josh McDaniels in the past.
Oakland.
Maybe going to Oakland. Las Vegas. You'd have Devontae Adams. You can definitely get guys to come there. I'm pretty sure they have some decent cap space as well. They have some early picks. I think that could be something that would work. But if I'm him, though, I would want to go to a team with an established offensive line.
I agree.
To me,
the only team that I can actually think of would be New Orleans that has that and weapons and a solid defense. The only thing is I don't think they have the cap space to really bring them
Saints have been consistently in cap space hell now for several years. And so that's why they're going to stick with Andy Dalton as they're probably going to stick with Andy Dalton as their quarterback next year. They don't have a first round pick this year because they traded for Chris Olave. So
I don't think there's been a lot of speculation that Tom wants to return to New England. The only way I see Tom returning to New England is as an offensive coordinator.
I mean, maybe. Probably
that's
not.
But exactly, probably not. That's the only way I see him.
I don't see why he would want to get back into football. I think he'd want to go. I think he'd want to go live in Florida, golf.
I mean,
golf.
But Tom Brady's that way for a reason because he doesn't just golf all the time.
Yeah, No, I mean, I'm not disagreeing. But
I don't think there's any other team.
The Colts could be another team as well. I mean, they're looking for a quarterback.
But I don't think that the Colts are interested in another reclamation project.
Tom Brady's a reclamation project?
Well, okay.
He's
45.
Jim Irsay, Jim Irsay is like, hey, Tom, you want to come to Indianapolis? We have arguably the best running back in the league when healthy. We have a good offensive line, completely underrated defense. No one talked about really just because of, the team wasn't good. I think that offensive line will improve.
Jeff Saturday gets fired. Colts, they have the cap space to bring him in along with possibly a bona fide left tackle and some other good players. I think if Jeff Saturday is not signed on as the permanent head coach and they bring in a real guy, then maybe I think that could be a –
Jeff Saturday's not. Jeff Saturday won't come back as the head coach. I don't see why he would.
There was rumors that he was.
Well, for me, my theory behind that is they got Jeff Saturday, and we're going down a little bit farther path, but so then he could analyze each position because he was a special advisor for the Colts. So I think he got a good analysis of all the good bad players on the team, and then they're going to take that into the offseason. So with that, then if you get Tom Brady, and we're just going absolutely just spitballing here, but I don't know what other team. I mean, can't see him going to Carolina. That wouldn't make any sense. What if we did the ultimate troll and went to Atlanta? And like I took a Super Bowl.
Either,
I took a Super Bowl away from you guys, so like I want to give one back to you. I wouldn't say no.
that doesn't make any sense either. I don't with where the Falcons are, like in terms of Tom Brady. They don't have the established offensive line. The defense is maybe above average.
They just had a 1,000-yard rookie running back. Their offensive line actually was top 10 rated. They going to have one of the they have an up and coming rookie receiver. They can have $70 million in cap space, so they can afford him. Defense needs to improve a little bit. They have a top 10 pick. They'll keep addressing that defense. It won't happen. I agree with you, but like
I don't think Atlanta's still in the midst of a rebuild, and I don't think Tom Brady wants to do that.
No, but if you think about it, though, next year I think Atlanta has a legit shot to win the division. They only had one I think they only had one double-digit loss throughout the entire year. That was against Cincinnati. A lot of their other games were very close. They fought hard in a lot of these games. I think that they could win the division next year, especially if Tom Brady doesn't come back, because the Saints aren't very good. Carolina's in a rebuild, and then Tampa Bay. I don't think Tampa Bay will be very good.
It's an interesting dilemma. I mean, do you think Minnesota's a team? I don't think Minnesota, like.
Well, that goes back to what we were.
Kirk Cousins, like.
I'm pretty sure Kirk Cousins. I'm pretty sure he does have one more year. Under his belt.
Also, he has one more year, but he's making like 33 or like something million. Like he's making a lot of money, and so like.
But that's another one though. Weak offensive line. Like Tom Brady knows that. Like a weak offensive line. I don't see why he'd want to go there.
There are rumors that he could go to the Jets. I think Jets have a fantastic defense. The Jets have very good receiving weapons and a good offensive line.
And great defense.
Yeah, no, I led with that. Yeah,
Oh, you did? Sorry, I missed that. No, sorry. I guess I was thinking about that option. I was like, oh, I could see that. Then he's got to go play New England every single year. So, or not every single year. Well, yes, he would, but a couple times a year. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. I mean, do you think there's any chance he comes back to Tampa Bay? Like, and he just stays there?
Not after this year. This year was so dysfunctional. In Tampa Bay.
I wonder how much. Who's their coach again? I'm trying to remember.
Todd Bowles.
I mean, there was so many offensive line injuries though, where it was tough to get a feel for it. But man, they did struggle to score throughout the entire season.
Well, they tried to do the like grind them out. Or grind them down, wear them out style. And it's like they didn't have the offensive line for it. And then the defense was on the field way too much. So like they just kind of ground themselves down. And then I think that was apparent tonight in the Dallas game. I think everybody was just so beat up from the season. They were just exhausted. So
well, and they even had moments as well. Like this offense seemed like remember when the Lakers a couple years back where they had Carmelo, Dwight Howard, they had LeBron, they had I think Russell Westbrook, and they got eliminated in the first round. Like this was the all-star team from like 2013,
2011.
And I kind of got some of those vibes as well because if you look, they got an older Julio Jones, they got Russell Gage, who I think was a good receiver with Atlanta, but I think also kind of past his prime a little bit. Mike Evans is getting older as well. Still really good. I mean, I think he still had another 1,000-yard season. They even brought in Cole Beasley for a little bit as well, who was a top 25 receiver back in his heyday. And it just seemed like they had a bunch of veteran pieces. It was no, they didn't have Ndamukong Suh. The Eagles picked them up, but anyways, though, I don't know what Tom's going to do. It's going to be obviously it's going to be one of the major storylines in the offseason here. As a team as a whole, though, I am curious what happens because I wonder if they're going to go into a rebuild. Well, because they don't have. I mean, they drafted Kyle Trask last year or 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Do you roll with him? Like I know nothing about Kyle Trask. I don't think we've heard anything about him.
To me, I think from what we've heard about Kyle Trask, he's not very good.
And that doesn't surprise me. He wasn't a very highly touted prospect coming out of college.
Well, it was just the decision making. He would just make stupid decisions in Florida, and like you'd be like, you have a check down with no one around him for 10 yards, and then you force the ball to Kyle Pitts. Like, and then like, yeah, he would catch it sometimes, but when he didn't catch it, it was picked by one of the 4 guys around him. So, anyways, I think it's more likely that they make a trade for a Derek Carr or a Jimmy G and pursue one of those guys. I don't know. Todd Bowles didn't have any luck with the Jets, and I don't really expect him to have very much luck with the Bucs as a head coach. I don't know. I just think it's an interesting dilemma.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's going to be. I don't think Tom Brady's going to be there, especially after this year, and a lot of it too. I think has to be with offensive line health, but also maybe just internal dysfunction. Not anything against the coaching, but it just might not have fit well in this system. And any team is going to probably go say yes to Tom Brady.
Oh yeah. So, like defensively, they have a lot of talent. Like you said, I think Mike Evans, he's like 31 now, 31.
Mm-hmm.
Semi falling off a cliff. I don't say.
I wouldn't say falling off a cliff. No,
but like semi slowing down. And I think a lot of his production this year was because he was the only healthy receiver, and Tom Brady was force feeding him 14 targets a game. Like, he wasn't. I don't think he was getting open nearly as much as he had been in the past, and he dropped. He dropped a touchdown pass that I think he should have caught at the end of the game there.
I mean, the game was over.
It wouldn't have mattered, but it's just like Mike Evans from 3 years ago catches that football.
He might have an extra half step or something.
Yeah. So for me, I just think that's the direction of the Bucs. It's just going to be this decline. I don't think they win the division next year because I don't think Tom Brady's going to be back. That division is a crapshoot. I don't know. That kind of wraps up the losers of Wildcard weekend. It doesn't look like we have any comments. No comments. So I think we're going to wrap up here. So it's a long episode of the Tracy Take. So if you guys have made it this far, please go ahead and like and subscribe. And go ahead and hit that bell notification so we can ping you every time that we go live. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.